Hi, good morning. Today I am going to try to share some thoughts about my experience, my thoughts related to intimacy and multiple sclerosis. First of all, I'd like to say we all know about STDs. Those are bad things. So if someone is young and they're out there, be aware of STDs, those serious conditions there's different types and so forth. And then pregnancy, we all know about pregnancy too. Uh, they happen, so gotta be careful. Pregnancy related to MS, so that's good to talk to your doctor about. You have to make those decisions. I know that I've had 3 kids, and in the back of my mind, I always worry that they might develop MS. But they're like 30 years old, and now the youngest one is 10 years of age, and there's medicines to treat, so it's not like you get MS and it's over. It's MS, you deal with it. MS and intimacy, though, I can share my experience. Comes down to it, sex. Yeah, some individuals have a real strong libido. Uh, some people don't. So it's always important to communicate, and really, where you're at, what you're feeling. It's more important to some people more than others. I know that with my MS, I've had experiences where it's a no-go, dead on arrival, not gonna happen. That was probably I'm 63, and that was probably earlier, when I was like 28. But MS, you don't know, relapsing, remitting. So after a while, I was able to recover and maintain and still be sexually active. I once was at a seminar, and the speaker was talking about individuals with MS that have sex, and sometimes they have different emotional responses, like crying. I can kind of relate to that. I wasn't crying, but for some reason I was just laughing. I just thought it was so funny. It was weird. I didn't really know what was going on then. I'm sure there's other reactions, but if an individual becomes conscious of our emotions, that's why it's important to really realize that depending on where the lesion is, it affects your emotions. It can affect your emotions. And we have these strange, different, or not strange, but human emotional responses, reactions, but at inappropriate times. So if we kind of can see that and we can become conscious of it, then we can learn to control that. And then if we have good communication with our partner and they're aware of that, depending on what's going on, then we can be on the same page and we work through it. It's recently read a document that said that the chemicals released during sex is actually like being on heroin. That's how strong that euphoria is. It's almost the same as being on heroin. I once in college in the 80s, I had a friend from LA, and he wrote a paper. Taking heroin is like making love to a woman. I think he was on to something there. The professor didn't agree with him, give him enough, but there might have been something to it there. We now know that there is such a thing as a sexual addiction, and they do need help and they do need treatment. For some individuals, and of course it has to do with genetics, probably how our genetics our receptors are set up for our transmitters, and how we release dopamine, and how it's real strong sexual drive. Some people don't have that. I'm not going to say it's this sex or that sex. It's probably goes both ways. But it's important to recognize that we all have different needs, different desires. They have Cialis, Viagra. Once I tried Cialis, before I even tried it, the neurologist told me, all that really helps with maintaining an erection. It doesn't really make you have more of an ejaculation. My experience with Cialis was it's no big deal. I mean, I really didn't use it. I used it a couple, 2 or 3 times. I don't really need it. I talked to another neurologist, female neurologist. She told me that's all in their head. I tell my husband all the time that's all in your head. That's not all in your head. It's literally physiological. Compatibility with or without MS on all levels, today we're talking about sex, is a problem. If there is no compatibility, if one person does and the other one can't, that's a difficult situation. If they both are willing to work through it together, intimacy, that's why I would rather prefer this dialogue be about intimacy. It's still togetherness, and there's ways to have that feeling, that experience. People, have sex. You can do that. They can still have intimate sex. It's not a total no-go. This can happen. I know this can happen. It may not be textbook, at least in some textbooks, but in my textbook, it can happen. You can still be intimate. You can still make this happen. You just have to talk about it, just decipher, figure out a good way so it'll happen, but not a good way or your own way. I always think, and I always say, people need to tailor their own care for their own personal needs. What works for you, it can still happen. It's not a no-go. When you have that intimate moment, it's an exchange of real intimacy, of feelings. It's not just only the pleasurable moment, but the touch, the hugging, the kissing, the massaging. We can't lose that. People shouldn't really disconnect from that. It shouldn't be just about sex. I had a friend once, and he says, my wife's not really interested anymore. I want to, but she's not. He said that, and he said and sometimes I think like I should just get a girlfriend, and sometimes she acts like she doesn't care. But my friend concluded, he says, I can live without sex, but I can't live without my wife. That's what he said. I thought about that, and I think that you're in a very special, intimate, close relationship with a meaningful person. It should be, you don't want to lose that person. That's the love of your life. Maybe it comes down to you can live without sex. But what I think it's really important is that you have that meaningful purpose in your life, and you have an important relationship, and sex is just part of it, but really what it's about is intimacy. That's it. Have a great day. Take care. Just sharing my thoughts.